Hello, everybody. This is Mr. Greer, and today we're going to take a look at changing percents to fractions. So, in the last video, which was, I believe it was changing decimals to percents or change percents to decimals. I can't remember which one it was, but I said in the last video that basically this was going to be an easier thing to do. You're going to find all these problems on page 105. Rows 1, 2, and 3. All right, so here we go. There are two different things that you have to consider when you're turning percents into decimals. You can have a whole percent like this, 85%, okay? Or you could have a percent with a fraction in it, 8 and 1/3%. Both of these can get turned into regular fractions, but there's two different methods to do it. So I'm going to show you how to do both methods. So the first method is when it's a regular percent. In other words, it's just 85% or 10% or 5%, just one whole percent, all right? There's no fraction involved. It's just one whole percent. So this is 85%. To turn this into a fraction, what you do is you're going to put the number over 100. All right? Because 85% as a fraction is 85 over 100. And then from there, you reduce. So this is example 1, by the way. So we have 85 over 100. Here's the cool thing about this. All right? You have a 5 here and a 0. So we know it can definitely get reduced by 5 at least. So let's go ahead and reduce the top and the bottom by 5, and that's going to get us 17 over 20. And that's our answer. We have turned this percent into a fraction, then reduced that fraction to get the answer. When you're doing numbers like this, if it ends in 5 or 0, those are all multiples of 5, right? 5, 10, 15, 20. You know you could reduce by 5. If both numbers end in 0, say it's something like 20%, which would become 20 over 100, well, now I know I can reduce by 10, right? And you guys can either do what we've learned, kind of crossing out the zeros, canceling zeros, or just divide by 10. Either way works, right? 20 goes into 10. 10 goes into 20 2 times. 10 goes into 100 10 times. We have 2/10. But these are even numbers, which means we can go even further, can't we? 2 goes into 2 1 time, 2 goes into 10 5 times. All right? So we've turned 20% into 1/5. Or say it's two even numbers, like it's an even number, like 14%. That's an even number, isn't it? 14% becomes 14 over 100. 14 and 10 are both even numbers. We can definitely use 2. We can divide the bottom and the top by 2. 2 goes into 14 7 times. 2 goes into 100 50 times. And we can't do anything with this. So there's our answer. So those are 3 scenarios you can look at. If it's going to be when you turn it into a fraction, be like, hey, are these multiples of 5? Or are these multiples of 10? Are they both even numbers? The denominator, whenever you're turning a percent into a fraction, the denominator is always going to be 100. 100 is even, 100 is a multiple of 10, and 100 is a multiple of 5. So either one of these are going to work based on what the numerator is going to be. So does your numerator end in 5 or 0? Does your numerator end in an even number? 14, 16, 18, right? If so, you can definitely use one of these numbers to reduce by to move over and get your full answer. Just make sure, like here, we stopped at 2/10. Don't you stop at 2/10. We're going to keep moving to 1/5. All right? So that's how you do these. And this is what I said in the last video, that this is very, very easy to work through. It's very easy to work with. When you see this, you simply take the percent, put it over 100, and then you ask yourself one of those three questions. Does it end in 5? Does it end in 0? Does it end in an even number? And then you can see what to reduce by to get your answers. Now it gets a little trickier when it's a percent with a fraction in it. So 8 1/3%. All right? So to handle these kinds of problems, here's what you do. And you're going to see a shortcut you can take as we go along, but I'm going to take you each step, okay? Step 1. Step 1 is that we're going to put this percentage over 100 to turn it into a fraction. So 8 1/3%, 8 1/3 over 100. So there's the first part. There's step 1. Let's rewrite this so it looks like something we've done before. So we're going to go 8 1/3 divided by 100. We need to turn this 100 into a fraction. We put it over 1. You see how we got there? We started here. And to get rid of this percent sign, we've got to put this whole number here, this whole thing, 8 1/3 over 100. That gets rid of the percent sign. And then we're going to rewrite it so it looks like a math problem that we've done before. 8 1/3 divided by 100. I put a 1 under the 100 in order to turn 100 into a fraction. Are you starting to see what we're going to do next? The next thing we're going to do is turn this into an improper fraction. Because right now, we can't really work with this, can we? So what's 8 times 3? What is 8 times 3? 24, correct? Because to turn into an improper fraction, we're going to multiply, then add. So 8 times 3 is 24. 24 plus 1 is 25. Our new math problem is 25/3 divided by 100 over 1. Okay? Hopefully you all see how we got there. From there, now you should be thinking about 3 letters, because remember, when you divide fractions, you should be thinking about 3 letters. You should be thinking about K, C, F. Everything builds in math. You can't forget any skill. You think KCF, so we're going to keep 25/3. Change that division symbol into a multiplication symbol. And then flip, so it's 1 over 100. All right, do you remember KCF? We keep, change, flip. Now, there's another skill here we can use to make our life easier. Cross-reducing. 25 and 100. I think we can do something with this. 25 goes into 25 one whole time, and 25 can go into 100 4 times. Our answer is 1/12. Can't do anything with 1/12. So there is our full answer. So that's how you do the problem when it's like this, okay? So some of you might be able to see the shortcut. The shortcut is you automatically look at this and say, let me turn that into an improper fraction. And so you might take it straight from here to here. And then you might say to yourself, oh yeah, I'm also going to need to flip this upside down and multiply. So some of you, over time, might be able to go straight from this to this without even worrying about all these steps in between. All right? And if you can do that 100% of the time, I have no problem with that. Only if you can do that 100% of the time. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of the problems in row 1. So again, we're still on page 105. This is row 1. And here's the first problem, 35%. This is just a plain old-fashioned percent, right? So there's no problem here, right? All we're going to do, step 1, is put the number over 100. And that gets rid of that pesky percent sign. Now it's just 35 over 100. Now, that was step 1. Step 2 is we need to reduce. I'm going to write step 2, reduce. 35 and 0, both of these numbers can be reduced by 5 because they're both multiples of 5, right? It ends in a 5 and a 0. 35. 5 goes into 35 7 times. 5 goes into 100 20 times. Your answer is 7/20. Let's take a look at the next one. 20%. Again, it's like a whole percent, right? There's no fraction here at all. So what we're going to do, step 1, put the number over 100 to get rid of that pesky percent sign. Now that we've done that, we can reduce somewhere. Some of you already know the trick. You can cross out the 0 and the 1 on the top and 1 on the bottom, and that'll get you 2/10. But 2/10 can get reduced again. 2/10 can get reduced to 1/5 because 2 goes into 2 1 time, and 2 can go into 10 5 times. So our answer is 1/5. Oh, here we go. Now here's one that's got a fraction in it. Well, let's not worry. We're simply going to, step 1, write the fraction over, write this entire number over 100. 12.5 over 100. That gets rid of the percent sign. From there, our next step is to write this in a way that we can work with it, right? So our next step is to write it like this. 12.5 divided by 100. We need to put that 100 over a 1. Ah, there we go. It's starting to look like a problem we can work with. But we have to do something about this improper fraction, this mixed number. We have to turn it into an improper fraction, which means we multiply first, then add. 2 times 12 is 24. 24 plus 1 is 25. So our new problem is 25 halves divided by 100 over 1. Now we've got to think of the 3 letters, K, C, F. All right? I'm going to move over here. So that means keep, change, flip. Now we can take this and do some cross-reducing, right? 25 goes into 25 once. 25 goes into 100 4 times. Multiply straight across, respect the line. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 4 is 8. Your answer is 1/8. Okay, kind of went underneath another problem, but that's okay. We don't need much space for this one here. So let's go on to this problem up here. 6%. Well, the first thing we do is write the number over 100 to get rid of the percent sign. And then we can reduce. This is an even number, so I could use 2. 6 goes into 2 3 times. 2 goes into 6 3 times. 2 goes into 100 50 times. There you go, 3/50ths. We can't do anything else with that. All right. As you can see, when it's just that regular percent with no fraction in it, it's just a quick step, right? Just a quick step. Step 1, step 2. When you have the fraction involved, it's a little bit more, right? Because first you have to write the entire number over 100, turn it into something we can work with, right? Turn your improper fraction into a mixed number, do KCF, and then work out the problem. All right, it's a little bit more work involved, but you'll get used to the steps. Let's try row 2, 16 2/3. Let's work on these steps, shall we? So 16 2/3, well, first we need to get rid of this percent sign. So now we're going to write this whole thing over 100. 16 2/3 over 100. Then we're going to write it so we can work with it. So (16 2/3) divided by 100. Of course, we put the 100 over a 1, put a 1 underneath. Now it's fractions. But we can't work with this yet because it's a mixed number and we need to turn it into an improper fraction, which means we're going to multiply first, then add. Okay. So 3 times 16 is 48. 48 plus 2 is 50. Okay, 3 times 16 is 48. 48 plus 2 is 50. And so our new problem becomes 50/3 divided by 100 over 1. And then we need to be thinking to ourselves, KCF. So that will get us keep 50 over 3, change the division symbol to multiplication, and then flip the 1 over 100. Now we can cross reduce. We have a 50 and a 100. 50 goes into 50 one time. 50 goes into 100 two times. Respect the line, multiply straight across. 1 times 1 is 1, and 3 times 2 is 6. Your answer is 1/6. All right? So remember, start like this. Take the entire number, write it over 100. From there, you can write it so you can work with it. And honestly, you could go from here to here as long as you know the proper setup. Okay? Once you have this together, you need to put the 100 over a 1. You need to turn this mixed number into an improper fraction, and that'll take you here. Once you see this, you should automatically think KCF. Keep, change, flip, do your cross reducing, multiply straight across, and you'll get your answer. How about this one, 1%? Well, it's a regular percent, right? There's no fraction in here, so all I'm going to do is write the number over 100 to get rid of that pesky percent sign. And guess what? That's it. Nothing for us to do. Nothing else for us to do. How about 90%? Well, let's see. There's no fraction in here, so I'm just going to write the number over 100 to get rid of that pesky percent sign. Now we can do our 0 crossing out, and that'll get us 9 over 10. Nothing more we can do here, so that's our answer. Let's look at the last one here on row 2, or is that the second? Yeah, last one, row 2. 37.5%. There's a fraction in here, so we've got to go through all those fun steps, right? All right, so step 1, write the fraction over 100. Write this entire thing over 100. So 37 1/2 over 100. Then we're going to rewrite it so we can work with it. Okay? So 37.5 divided by 100. All right? So do we all know how to get from here to here to here? Hopefully we all understand that. Now we got to do some stuff, don't we? 100, we're going to turn it into a fraction by putting it over 1. And then this improper fraction, this mixed number needs to become an improper fraction, doesn't it? Okay? 37 times 2. All right, so I'll do this really quick. 37 times 2. 2 times 7 is 14. 2 times 3 is 6. 74. 74 plus 1 is 75. So our new problem is 75 over 2 divided by 100 over 1. All right. From there, we got to think K, C, F. So keep 75.5, change the division to multiplication, then flip the 100 over 1 to 1 over 100. Now we should be thinking about reducing. So 75 and 100. 75 can't go into 100, but there's a number that can. Now you could use 5, but should be taken forever. So let's go higher. 75, think quarters, okay? Quarters in a dollar, right? 3 quarters equals 75 cents. So 25 can go into 75 3 times. And 25 can go into 100, or a full dollar, 4 times. Which leaves with the answer 3/8. Can't do anything with that from there. All right? I know it's a lot, but once you start doing these steps, it's going to become very, very easy for you. Let's take a look at row 3. Row 3, and we're still on page 105. So row 3, it's 12% is the first one, right? It's just a regular fraction, just a regular percent. So we're going to write the percent over 100 to get rid of the percent sign. And now we're going to look for reducing. Even numbers, so you could use 2. But you could also go higher and use 4. Can't go any higher than 4, though. 4 goes into 12 3 times. 4 goes into 100 25 times. Your answer is 3/25. Okay? Let's take a look over here. 99%. Oh boy. No matter how big the number is, the steps stays the same. We're going to take this 99%. To get rid of that pesky percent sign, we're going to put the 99 over 100. And guess what? There's nothing else we can do with this. That's our answer. Let's take a look at the next two. The next one, the last two here. We have 66 2/3%. The first step, get rid of the percent sign by putting this whole thing over 100. That's step 1. Okay. Step 2 is to rewrite this so we can work through it, right? 66 2/3 divided by 100. Now we've got to turn 100 into a fraction by putting it over 1. And now we can almost get to work, but we've got to change this mixed number into an improper fraction. 3 times 66 is 198. 198 plus 2 is 200. Our new problem is 200 over 3 divided by 100 over 1. See how we got there from here to here? Okay. And now, should be thinking 3 letters, KCF. Keep, change, flip. 100 can go into 100 one time. 100 can go into 200 two times. Respect the line, multiply straight across. Your answer is 2/3. Because 2 times 1 is 2 and 3 times 1 is 3. Let's take a look at the last one that I'm going to do for you guys in row 3. This is 4.5. So, step 1, get rid of the pesky percent sign by writing this whole thing over 1. 4 and 1, over 100. 4 and 1/2 over 100. Now we're going to rewrite it so that we can work with it. Okay, so 4 and 1/2 divided by 100. And then, of course, we're going to put the 100 over 1 to make it a fraction. And now we've got to turn this mixed number into an improper fraction. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. Our new problem is 9/2 divided by 100 over 1. Now you should be thinking KCF, keep, change, flip. So we're going to keep the 9/2, change the division symbol to multiplication, and then flip the 100 over 1 to 1 over 100. Can we do any cross-reducing here? There is no number that you can use to do 9 and 100. It's impossible. And nothing you can do with 1 and 2. So we're just going to respect the line, multiply straight across, and our answer is 9 over 200. Because 9 times 1 is 9, and 2 times 100 is 200. So there you have it. The steps to doing the 2 different kinds of problems. All right, so remember, when it's a regular percent, like this, you simply get rid of that percent sign by putting the number over 100. After that, you try to reduce it, and there's your answer. Make sure when you're reducing, you reduce all the way. And just know, if it ends in at the top number, know that the numerator, how do I say this? The denominator is always going to be divisible by 5, 10, or 2. So you really want to look at your numerator. If the numerator ends in 5, you want to use a multiple of 5. If the numerator ends in 0, you can use a multiple of 10. If the numerator ends in an even number, you can use 2, most definitely, and sometimes go even higher than 2 to like 4. All right? That's when it is just a regular, good old-fashioned fraction. Percent. 85%, 20%, 14%. As you can see, the same steps work for all of them. Get rid of the percent sign by putting the numbers over 100. Reduce, and there you go. Find your fraction. Reduce all the way. Now, when it is a percent with a fraction in it, like 8 1/3, you take this whole entire thing and put it over 100 to get rid of that pesky percent sign. From there, you rewrite it so that you can work with it. Put the 100 over 1. Turn this mixed number into an improper fraction until you have something that looks like this, right? When you see 2 fractions in a division sign, automatically think to yourself, keep, change, flip. And so you keep, change, flip. From there, look for where you can cross-reduce. anywhere, and then multiply straight across to get your answer. That is how you do the problems on page 105. I'd like you guys to try and do row 4 on your own, using this video and the notes that you've taken. And come sometime tomorrow, we'll get going on some videos on common fractions and decimals and percents and finding the percent of a number. We'll definitely get into that so that on Tuesday, we can dig into like finding the percent of any number. We'll dig into that. Okay, so thank you very much for your time, and I will see you soon.